Good morning and welcome to Sunday morning here at the SKUSA Pro Tour for the second weekend, live from the Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati. As always, my name is Caleb Vietka, Alexander Searle here to my left, Justin Prince to my right. Fellas, it's been a great start to the weekend so far. The racing yesterday was absolutely electric. Talk about the end of the day with X30 Pro. I mean, Justin, you were on the call for that one. What was it like from inside of our production booth?
It was exciting to say the very least. It was a thriller when it came to the race. It was a thriller when it came to the action. It came down to the wire when it came to the drag race, and especially when it came to what we've seen at the very end. Norbert getting that edge at the very end came down to preciseness. It came down to strategy. It came down to having the right amount of aggression. It was an exciting one to say the very least.
Yeah, Alex, over to you now, right? I mean, we've seen Ryan and Austin go head-to-head year after year here at the SKUSA Pro Tour. This year, there's just a different feel to it, right? It's closer than it's ever been. Those two have definitely, set a new, margin for the rest of the field.
Yeah, standard is the word, right? I mean, those have been the two guys all year long that everyone's chasing. And like you said, they've been the last decade or more here in the senior class, and they almost get better every single year. It's pretty incredible to watch.
Yeah, so we'll see how the weekend continues to progress for the X30 Pro guys. The Pro Show is live later today with our Pro Shifter drivers. Pre-race ceremony starting at about 1 p.m. Eastern time. And that's going to be, again, something you guys do not want to miss. That will be free for everybody to view later on today. But on the racetrack now, your KA100 Jr drivers getting the warm-up sessions started early. Who was the standout? And I think this is an easy question for us, right? This driver's been super, super good all year long in junior categories. I'm just going to answer it for you, Justin. Alex Vanchev. But talk about, how he's been so far this year, racing, and so far this weekend as well, because he swept the junior categories.
Yes, absolutely dominant to start off the weekend, especially when it comes to his pace. He made it pretty clear that he wanted to be able to control the field, be able to run away, be able to dictate the pace. And it was pretty clear from the onset, from the start of the weekend, that he had the pace. This weekend, Vanchev, extremely quick. It's going to be interesting to see at the very least if he's going to be able to keep it up this next day here when it comes to the action.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, a lot of drivers were close, Alex. Who can it be today that can take the fight to Alex Vanchev here in KA Jr and even in the X30 Jr class?
I think it's the same exact driver that got his maiden win back at track out. Why? I mean, the Magic Man has been sensational. Talking to Bujdoso, Robbie and Andrew, talking to AJ Myers, they said, listen, it's no longer teaching this kid the line, how to maybe drive a go-kart. It's racecraft. It's the mental side of things, and they've been working at that for the last year or more with Max Weiland, and he's figured it out. And that driver now has found a new level of aggression, new level of confidence that I haven't seen from Max Weiland before. And he was frustrated yesterday with a P2 finish. He said that I failed, is his exact words to me when he was on the X30 grid after his KA Junior race earlier on in the afternoon. He said, yeah, listen, I failed the team. And I'm like, dude, it's a P2. He said, yeah, but it's not P1. So now that he's got that maiden win, we know how it is, Caleb. Once you get that first win, you just want more.
I mean, you get taste of it, right? You get taste of it, and I think after that, right, you want to taste it again. You want to be in that position again where you're in the top step of the podium, getting yourself, with a nice paycheck coming out of the weekend. So it'll be nice for him. And I know Robbie and Andrew, I mean, speaking to the two of them yesterday, they're like, yeah, because Max was telling us on grid yesterday, Alex, he was like, no, I got a taste of it. I need to have that again. I need to have that again. And Robbie was like, that's a perfect response from Max, and we love to hear that from him. So we'll see what he can do if he can take the fight to him. I know in the X30 Jr class, a couple of the other X30s were pretty close. So we'll see what they can do. And in this class as well, right? We had a couple of the red flags. Everybody was okay and cleared to race here today. So we're excited to see everybody with us. And we just hope for some clean racing here today. But it's been talking about track conditions, talking about the track evolution, everybody's had something different to say about this racetrack, right? You talk to the pro drivers, tire pressure's been one of the biggest questions. We're up in the double digits where, for those of you at home, it's usually, in the single digits, right? And to me, Alex, you're more of an analyst in the technical side of things. How surprising is that to see, especially when you're on, a soft compound like the MG Red the Avinco Red, for the X30 Pros and even like the Avinco Blue that, just got redesigned last year.
Yeah, I mean, there's different tire pressures that I've seen all throughout the field. It seems like the Pro X30 guys and the shifter pros are doing a little bit different strategy on the tire pressures than the rest of the field just because of those Avinco Reds. And again, it's interesting. It's not surprising because it seems to be characteristic to this racetrack and just the way that the surface is, the way the go-karts handle around this place. I mean, I know last year when we came to this racetrack, it was a little bit hotter than what it was today or this weekend, but it has actually warmed up, I think, more than expected, more than the weather app actually says. But still, just the way this surface drives and the way this racetrack does, right? And the way you have to almost manage your tire because there's fast corners and you have tight corners. Talking to the pro shifter guys last night in the presser, they said, listen, I mean, you can be fast everywhere, and in the last 2 corners you're slow, or you kind of change your setup. You're fast in the last 2 or 3 corners. You're slow in the first half of the track. It's like you got to pick your poison, and a lot of drivers seem to struggle with understeer, and then you go too far in the opposite direction. You get what we call that flat slide, and you start to ruin your rears too early, and so it's difficult. And again, part of that is tire pressures. You go too high, you go too low. But if you go too low, the problem is they may never come in. You go too high, you might overheat them too early on in the race. So that is kind of the game that they're playing.
Yeah, it's something going to be interesting. I mean, Justin, we've seen, all the racing throughout the weekend. It's been electric, right? Throughout all the classes, some of the favorite ones, Micro Swift had a really, really good race yesterday. The Minis, that one was kind of the one where we just had some stuff to figure out, on the driving standards side of things. And, we hope that cleans up a little bit today. But we'll see how it all progresses. Micro Swift, I mean, a great day yesterday for them. How about Aiden Go, the youngster for Parolin, getting his first race win? And you saw everybody on the fence line as well for Aiden, not even from just Parolin, but from all other teams coming together to support him and to feel elated for him as well. I mean, you were in the booth calling that race there. How special was it, from the inside watching that and then even hearing, with our new feature with the new mobile cameras, hearing that, Justin?
I think it was very special because it was a well-deserved performance, first of all. It was the type of race where he was able to put up some strong moves and was able to put himself in a position where he was able to take advantage of some of the situation that developed for Aiden Go. I think it was about picking the right timing of when to go, and name pun intended. But it became the type of race where it was just about execution, and Go just executed perfectly.
No, for sure. And this track, I think, more than any other track here in the country, any other track on our pro national circuit, this track, I think decision-making is super, super critical, right? Picking the right lane when we're down on the main straightaway, pushing the right people, finding the right momentum, especially out of that last section. I mean, momentum wins races around this place, and we saw that yesterday in X30 Pro. The 125cc class, and it's that much more important for our cadet categories, I would say, heading into today. I mean, you got a taste of it yesterday for the drivers that are new here for their first time racing here, but you got a big tell out of yesterday, and they have to understand that and see what they can do differently today to try and get up to the podium and into points positions.
Yeah, well, part of it is, I mean, when you're, especially in like the micro and the mini classes, and you're still in your early stages of your career, it's more than learning how to race. I mean, if you're running the full season of the SKUSA Pro Tour, right, you're still learning how to win championships. And that's the biggest thing when talking to young drivers is they're always going for the win, and I love that, right? They're fierce, they want it. But if you want to go for a title, there's almost a slightly different approach that you have to have, right? Because if you're going into a weekend as a points leader or going into a Sunday like today as a points leader, having a great Saturday, knowing you have one drop to your disposal could make you a little bit, careless out there. But you still have to drive smart. We're not at the last round of the SKUSA Pro Tour yet. You can't afford to maybe use one of your drops on a weekend like here versus maybe on the last weekend where it's a little bit more affordable, right? So that's one of the things that if I was here coaching this weekend, if I was a mechanic, if I was a parent, I'd be saying, listen, if you're in the championship hunt, and even if you're a driver on the outside looking in, you got to look for points, right? It's not always worth it going from third to second and maybe, losing a spot or two at the last lap versus, holding your spot, right? So that's part of the thing. Two, like you said, Caleb, this racetrack, with the mini and micros in particular, it's very inviting for passes. I mean, the last 2 corners there, really slow left-hander into a tight right hairpin onto a long front straightaway, and obviously the slower the go-kart, the longer the straightaway lasts, right? And so we saw the run down to the line for Pro X30. the run to the line is even longer when you're in a slower go-kart. So again, draft is critical. We saw it in qualifying yesterday in both mini and micro. The driver in third and fourth in line in the toe gets what we call that lazy toe, right? You start the lap 5-6 kart length back. You end the lap on their bumper. That means you gain time on them, right? So that's the goal today for qualifying again for mini and micro today, and for all the classes really doing their qualifying sessions today. Draft is key around this place. Even talking to the Pro X30 guys, I said, listen, is the draft critical here? We saw guys like Gus Lawrence opt to just go out there and be at the head of the field. They said, yes, it is key. It is worth the little bit of aero wash you get through 1 and 2 for the toe you get on that front straightaway.
Yeah, and even then, right, you talk to the X30 guys. How about some of the other younger drivers, right, in the Microsoft class? Aiden Go was very good, but there was also a couple of other drivers that were close. Talk about Dutch Westbrook in the qualifying session, and Lockhart, especially with Velocity Racing and Sodi, and as well with Brody Stoffel and Jay Howard Driver Development. What do those drivers, do you think, Justin, need to do a little bit differently today to try and get the upper hand on Aiden Go?
To get the upper hand, I think it's going to come down to just execution. I know how simple that may sound, but it's about being able to get the good track position to start things off for the rest of the day. But then it's going to be about trying to, I should rephrase, about trying to pounce in terms of the run, in terms of being able to build up the momentum when it comes to the run, in terms of the passing opportunities that you can get around the racetrack, especially around here, to be able to try and make a move, to be able to try and do something along those lines. It's the type of racetrack where you need to pick the moves at the right time and be able to plan things around. And for a lot of these drivers, it's not just simple as pass, pass, pass. As mentioned, it's about strategization, as said by Alex, and I think that's going to be the main thing. Can they pick the right timing to make these moves to be able to come up as a race winner?
Yeah, you got to be planning, right? All race, and that's what separates, those excellent drivers here this week. And unfortunately for Aiden Go, though, we were talking about, how good of a day he had yesterday. He's out of this session a little bit early for the morning warm-up. So, again, for Paroling, going to have to go back to work on Aiden Go's machine and hope he can get running later on today for whenever he gets ready for the qualifying session. We saw happy hour was pretty good for them, but again, they're just going to have to get back to work. And for our race winner yesterday, if you want to go 2 for 2, got to knock out those gremlins early, and we hope to see him out in qualifying. But nonetheless, we're excited for Microsoft. We're excited for all the classes here this weekend for the second weekend of the SKUSA Pro Tour live from the Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati. A quick commercial break from our side. We'll be right back with some more.
All the way up to the finish line. Who is it going to be? It's Sean Perez who wins in Crescent.
Ty Fisher wins $1,000 in KA100 Jr.
Alex Stanfield played it perfectly here. Told him to wait. Stanfield wins the Duffy in 2024 for TV Kart.
Amarillo Kart Complex is now the official distributor for TV Kart in the continental U.S. Become a dealer today.
Champions aren't just born on the kart track. At SimShop, we deliver professional-grade simulators with the best performance-to-price ratio in the industry. Founded by racers who understand what you need, our SimMagic and Moza equipment is powerful enough for the pros, yet affordable for everyone. With unmatched customer support and a thriving community, we're your racing partner. Visit simshop.com today.
Let's go race.
Come on, man.
Welcome back here to MCC. Your pro shifter drivers getting set to hit the racetrack here. AJ Myers, Billy Musgrave going to lead this field out. And yesterday, the story was pretty much, what could have been in heat race number 1 for AJ Myers, right? Spoke to his mechanic. He thought they were a little too stuck to the racetrack in that first heat race. Got it dialed in the second heat race. He was able to get a win over Jay Irwin, who surprisingly everybody was talking about yesterday. And I shouldn't say surprisingly, right? Whenever you see Jay Irwin and the progression he's had racing over in Europe, he was at the European Championships last weekend. He's been in the seat a whole lot recently, all over the world, coming over here and bringing that talent. His progression has been really, really cool to see for us, Alex, here. But everybody has question marks about him and how fast he is. And we haven't gotten a chance to talk to him because he's always out of here super early. Him and his dad, they get their work done and they're out, right? Getting set for today on what the pro show is going to be for them. But talk about Jay, what we're expecting to see today. We haven't seen him pounce just yet.
Yeah, I think Jay's one of those drivers, like you mentioned. It's no surprise that he's quick, right? But he's really developed, the mental side of what it takes to win in shifter. I mean, we know he knows how to win. He's won before, but in a class this stacked, in a magnitude this large, not like he's, unbeknownst to it, right? A Supernats driver in Jay Irwin as well. So he's somebody that I've heard a lot of the pro shifter field discussing, mainly because he's one of the only guys running a tighter line than everybody else in the corners. It looks like he's using less tire than everybody else as well, and he's just kind of cruising about. And I think he's the driver that I'm keeping my eye on the most today during superheat in the main, right? Because Jay Irwin, to me, is somebody that can fly under the radar, even for a driver starting, second, third, fourth, no matter where it is. AJ Myers, that was the driver that he told me yesterday he believes is his biggest competitor, right? The one that everybody's kind of keeping their eye on because his line's different, the way he approaches, the track is different, and the setup, it looks like is a little bit different, and that Burrell looks really good. Let's talk about Burrell a little bit here, Caleb. It wasn't the smoothest day for the team in red, right? I mean, we saw a little bit of fireworks, I'd say, between Gavin Bailiff and Matheus Morgado yesterday during the first heat, and I think I want to apologize to Gavin Bailiff. I think I jinxed you in the morning. Looks like the bad luck of MCC struck again for Gavin Bailiff, but I think he's still got a pretty good chance in this one. He's got a decent heat number 2 under his belt, super heat still to go. So that's a driver that I think the pace is there, a track that he knows very well. Matheus Morgado, I know he's struggling with an illness. Hopefully he's feeling a little bit better this morning. I haven't had a chance to talk to him so far today, but yesterday looked rough, was not driving, I think, up to Matheus Morgado's standards. And so I think right now the team in red is on the back of Jay Irwin.
Yeah, right. I mean, Jay Irwin has definitely been the standout for them. I think Gavin had a good second heat, but, you talk about the fireworks yesterday and what we saw, and that was just, kind of surprising to see a little bit. Gavin was on the outside. Matheus, I think, was side by side in the moment. So hard one to call, right? And for them, it's just, wrapping all things up. We have the super heat later on today, and hopefully for them, it works out a lot better than what it did today because they really need to find that pace, right? Matheus didn't have the best opening round. Gavin did, and he needs those points here today, but we were talking about it. This isn't a track that's treated him all too nicely, and that's crazy to say because he lives on property. So unfortunate for him. For the GFC guys as well, they're a little bit on the same boat, right? Jacob Gulick, I think his clutch failed on the start, and he had to pull off the racetrack. For Kyle, not too many struggles besides a front fairing for him, thanks to myself, which is a funny story. But either way, it's it's been crazy, and for Kyle, talk about his qualifying, making it to Super Bowl, a really good showing, and I know he's definitely going to want more. We've seen how close he's come to championships before, and I know it definitely mean a lot to him here this weekend.
Yeah, it mean a lot to him, mean a lot to GFC, right? So I know that's a team that wants it really bad, right? And I think the driver on board the GFC machine that's, to me, the biggest standout this weekend, Hunter Pickett. He's been consistent, he's been smooth, he's been fast. He's a driver that you can't count out, right? And this is a racetrack that, speaking to him, it suits his style because it's such a bumpy racetrack that invites aggressive driving. That for a driver so smooth, to me, this is a track that Hunter Pickett shines on. He uses less tire than everybody else. He tries a little bit less maybe than everybody else, and it can play into his favor when you get into these longer races, the superheat, the main events. And so he's a driver that don't be surprised to see him start fighting for the top 5 later today.
Yeah, and Justin, you were talking with the Magic Kart team earlier on this weekend, and we spoke to AJ as well yesterday. What are you kind of getting on the feeling from AJ? Obviously, heat race number 1 wasn't a good start for him. He lost the whole shot there to Jay, but it seems like they're progressively getting better session after session.
That's right, especially when it comes to what we've seen in terms of their setup side of things. As talked about with some of their drivers, in particular with Myers during the post-race press conference yesterday, it came pretty evident that they started off the ball and weren't able to exactly get to where they wanted to be right from the start of the weekend, but have gotten better and better and figured things out, gotten the step to exactly where it needs to be able to compete, especially with AJ Myers. Have been trying with different drivers, different things to see what may or may not work in regards to CJ Bowman, a couple of their competitors, and what they've found with Myers seems to have really clicked for him to be able to perform in a race like today. Now the question is going to be, can he perform with the weather conditions looking like and already feeling like they're going to be a little bit more warmer compared to yesterday? And that could play a factor compared to what he was feeling yesterday during the heat races.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what it looks like for all these drivers here later on today. Checkered flag is in the air now. Next time, it's going to be their pre-final, which is going to be a points-based system as well going into the main event later on today. So we're going to see what it looks like for them. But not only that, right? A couple of the drivers coming into this weekend really good on points. Corentin Rousseau. The Frenchman has been flying it as well for one driver who hasn't had the best of luck so far this year, Josh Conker.
Yeah, Josh Conker, to me, one of the standouts yesterday. I mean, the pace we knew was there through Thursday, through Friday, but yesterday consistently in the top 6, top 7. And I know I mentioned in the presser last night, I mentioned it to him on Friday when I saw him during the nighttime after the happy hour for all the sessions. And I said, listen, if you had a chance to finally get in the seat? And he said, yeah, I've actually done some testing for once for the last 2 weeks. And he mentioned in the presser, right, being a Canadian, driving for an American team, it's tough to get laps with that team, right? And tough to get laps in general, but especially with a team that you race for, that's important. So for Josh Conker, it seems that those laps are proven good. I mean, he was consistently running a tenth or two off the pace of AJ throughout the heat races, but consistent with everybody else. And so don't be surprised, again, to see the Maranello driver up towards the front of the field again today. And, again, running with the same engine package as Billy Musgrave. It's good to get the data off of Billy. They're working together pretty well, and there's not many better drivers in the Pro Shifter field that you'd love to kind of work together and compare data off of than Billy Musgrave. Yeah,
they've been working together, right, with carbless racing engines, so that's been the biggest thing for them. And it looks like Conker as well might have had an issue here earlier on this morning. I'm looking back. The pickup truck is headed out there to pick up Josh Conker. So, yeah, I mean, unfortunate start for them. And you know, considering the pace they had yesterday, it's just a matter of getting it all figured out, right? This is what the morning warm-up sessions are for. You don't want to lose, you know, a critical, I guess, time to test. But, again, it's going to get a lot warmer later on in the day. So, for him, it's just a matter of figuring it all out, putting it all together when we get into that last heat race and their main event. That's going to be a great show for all of you guys to watch. I know we've covered a lot of names here. Justin, who else has kind of stood out to you in the shifter field?
In the shifter field that comes to mind, we've already talked a lot about the top 3. We've talked a lot about Kyle Wick. Trying to think about who to come to mind so far that comes to the mind. I think we've covered a lot of the bases. But Irwin in particular, I do want to swing back to him, because I actually did get the chance to talk with him yesterday a little bit in terms of the expectations. And he did mention in regards to his average pace, he was expecting things to be very competitive, and we've seen that become the pace. He's been very confident. He's had to deal with multiple time zones, mind you, over the weekend. You're talking about somebody that's had to transition a couple times over from Europe to New Zealand, over back to the United States, back and forth the past few weeks. And he did mention that he felt like it was an easier conversion going from Europe over back here on the body, and that seems to have been helpful in terms of his average pace so far. He's been very sporty overall, as said by you guys, and it's going to be the question, can he get the upper hand, as he's been the talk of all the drivers on pace.
Another driver I know that we've talked to in the past here, Alex, Charlie Steins has been really impressive to me this weekend. He's been carving his way through the field. and he just had a fuel filter at the end of the fuel line that comes out of the gas tank, and you're supposed to have a catch can there. And it's just, an honest mistake by them, but that got them a DQ and got sent to the rear of the field. So for Charlie, he's been working at it, right? And I spoke to him yesterday, and speaking to him, I know we joked around in Houston, right? He showed very little emotion, but I guess we had a good time with him on Grid Talk because he was, talking with us earlier, and he said, I'm having a good time. I'm working my way through the field, making passes, racing here in Shifter. What more could I ask for, right? And he was out here a couple of weeks ago at the club race, Justin. He was going side by side with, I believe it was, I don't know if it was CJ Bowman or another one of the drivers on the Magic tent. Yep. They're going side by side in places where you wouldn't expect here at MCC. And to see him go out there and have this good time, he's been up there, getting inside of the top 15 and even higher than that in some cases. So I really think that Factory Fury GP machine, whenever we get into that last heat race, into that pre-final, if you want to call it, that's going to be the biggest thing to see. What can he do? He broke out in Houston, and if I'm honest, this kid is definitely going to be working his way up inside of the top 10 today.
Yeah, well, today's a new day, right? And like you mentioned, on a racetrack where most of the pro shifter guys have been preaching about how difficult it is to pass around this place, he made it look pretty easy out there. I mean, now as you get more towards the front of the field, right, passing it's a little bit tougher. You're with guys that are probably more around your pace level. But for Charlie Steins, a driver that impressed, obviously, at Houston, getting his maiden pro shifter pole in awesome fashion. And for the entire Factory Fury GP team, right, I mean, it was cool to have them on Grid Talk a couple weeks ago. That whole team worked so hard, himself, Eli Fox, and the rest of the organization there. So really happy to see Charlie doing well. Really happy to see the entire Factory Fury GP team kind of riding the wave that they had off of Houston. And again, the unfortunate miscue from qualifying, but the pace still seems to be there. Master Shifter now heading out onto the racetrack for their warm-up lap here right now on board of Scott Presti. And I got to say, Caleb, maybe the pre-final wasn't, the best race of all time, but the final was pretty awesome to watch.
No, it was definitely a good final, Justin. I know you were on the call for that one. Unfortunately, I believe Presti crossed the line first, but Skitchy Barnes got it after, post-race tech. So, indeed, Skitchy Barnes was standing on the top step of the podium yesterday. So, hopefully, whatever went wrong with Scott Presti, they can get it figured out. But what did you see from inside of the booth there, Justin? That race definitely looked like a good one.
Yeah, especially with the long-run pace that Presti showcased. Starting off in the pre-final, he was looking very sporty in the pre-final in terms of the average pace, in terms of what he was able to do. Once about 8 or 9 laps were settling in, that's when his kart started to really come in the pre-final originally. And that carried over to the final, where by that point, since he had the track position for the pre-final to be able to get positions late, he was able to just get a chance to pull off and away. Now the question is, can he pass Tech today if it's the similar type of pace in that kart? We'll have to wait and see, because Skitchy Barnes had solid pace too, but not in the same realm on average pace by a couple tenths that Presti showcased in that respective kart. So we'll have to keep an eye on seeing if Presti is able to fit things in the box here today.
How about we speak to some of the drivers as well here later on today? Alex is going to head down for us. Justin, we're going to watch the warm-up sessions from up here. And again, we've been talking about, a whole lot this week. And I know KA Sr is getting set to hit the racetrack. We'll see if we can get them when they exit scales. That class has been a really good one to watch here as well. But, for all the Masters drivers, it's just about getting up to grips with it, right? You talk about Larry Pegram, who has a lot of laps around this place. And for, other drivers that have been racing here across multiple national series, for them, it's just what do you think they need to do to get up there to the drivers like Skitchy Barnes, like Scott Presti, who, like you said, showed really, really good long-run pace on his Croc promotion?
Yeah, that's the tough thing right now, right, is you kind of have the chassis that you have, and it's just about trying to find the adjustments on said chassis to try and match things up on pace, and that's easier said than done for a lot of these drivers here today once you come up to the second day. So for a lot of these competitors, I think for the most part, it's about, can you find that extra edge on the small adjustments you can make on pace, and can you find yourself in position to be able to be better on the long run, to be able to move forward? That's going to be a huge thing here today for these drivers as time goes on.
Yeah, we'll take a look at the times here as well with the checkered flag in the air, and it looks like Scott Hargrove, quickest of the morning, a 6:95. Scott Presti, a 6:26. Pierce Boldis on his Kart CRG USA machine with a 55.217. Back to Justin Kelly, Larry Pegram, Skitchy Barnes, Taylor Goubeau, and Carlos Lopez, your drivers here in Master Shifter. We'll take a quick break here from our side, Justin, catch our breaths, and we'll be right back with KA Senior Warm-Up.
Hey, what's up, Caleb?
What's up, Brandon?
You sound defeated. A long day at the office?
Yeah, got stuck at a cat food marketing meeting for like 3 hours. I don't know a thing about cat food, and I don't even work in marketing. And then I got sent on a coffee run like I was some sort of intern. Then at the end of the day, when I went to go get gas, I just realized everything is so darn expensive nowadays, man.
Yeah, you got that right.
Like, do you have any idea how much we're spending on Netflix?
It's like 20 bucks a month.
Do you know how much we're spending on cable?
That's like 50 bucks a month.
But you know what isn't expensive?
Tell me.
Kart Chaser Premium. For only $9.99 a month, you can watch all the American karting action live from coast to coast. Subscribe and become a member today.
Paulie Massimino wins in KA. Paulie Massimino is a winner in OKN Stars.
Take your driving to the next level with one-on-one coaching from 2024 OKN Stars champion, Paulie Massimino. Car rental options are available if you'd like to keep yours at home, and drivers in all classes are welcome. From Briggs 206 to Mini to KA100 and X30, with in-depth data analysis, onboard video footage, and lead follow on-track sessions. Each private coaching session will see you and is important to your driver and where you start. Book your coaching session now.
This is Henry. Henry feels sad. Henry feels sad because it's time for his next big race and his go-kart is in bits. Henry doesn't know that Acceleration Kart Racing is the United States #1 shop for all of your karting equipment needs. Henry also doesn't know that Acceleration Kart Racing can deliver anything from tires to race suits and even wheels directly to your front door or to the racetrack itself quickly and efficiently with tech support available 6 days a week. Or Henry doesn't even know that Acceleration Kart Racing offers free shipping to mainland USA on selected product if you spend $200 or more. Do yourself a favor. Go to accelerationkarting.com and make sure that you are never left stuck on the pre-grid with Henry. Be smart and don't be like Henry.
Florida Kart Racers, you asked for it, and we're going to bring it. Introducing Florida Karting Championship, FLKC, a brand new racing series coming to Florida in 2026.
KA Senior out onto the racetrack now, and yesterday it was some good racing, right? But it's been one story so far this year in KA100 Sr and 100cc categories. It's been all about Paulie Massimino, Brendan Jarsikrak Racing. Yesterday, we were talking about it last night at dinner, right? He just looked so comfortable, so composed, so relaxed in the seat of his LN kart. Talk about that a little bit, right? It's super important, especially at a track like this with such a hungry field and such a hungry pack of wolves to keep all of that kind of contained a little bit and go out there and perform it, and I think he did just that.
Yeah, exactly. I think he was able to perform very well in regards to being able to make passes, especially in the long run, keep himself in the conversation, be able to make the passes he needed to make on the racetrack. And it's been touched upon all weekend. He was looking to have some fun with this package. He's been having fun with said package, and it kind of shows with the body language we see when he's not in the seat for the KA100 Seniors in regards to how he's been able to perform. And I think overall, Paulie Massimino is just having fun out there. And that's the big thing. If you're not having fun, it kind of shows in the driving. If you're having fun and you're in a good kart, then you perform very well. In the case of Paulie Massimino, he's performing massively well as a result of his confidence and as well as his composure through this weekend.
And that's been the biggest mindset change as well for him pretty much all year long, right? He came into this year saying, I want to have fun. I want to have a good time. I want to come out here and enjoy karting again, because a lot of times, for a guy like him who has a business at home, who's coaching week after week, he's at the track every single day, making a living out of this sport, it's easy to get burnt out. And for him, it's, I want to fall in love with it again. I want to enjoy it. I want to love it. So he has, and he's fallen in love with it. And I think it's shown a little bit in his performance in X30 Pro as well. He looks comfortable there. He was really fast, got himself up into the top 3. And again, just he kind of got swallowed by the pack whenever he got there. But it's starting to show a lot in X30 Pro, and a lot of times in our sport, it becomes a little bit of a mental thing, and he's conquered that, I think, this year, and he's definitely showed that as well, and I think that's translating as well to the whole team, right? You look at Chris Harrower, what he's been able to do this weekend, James Overbeck, the two of them have worked flawlessly together, and then you have new guys coming in, like Fernando Luque, and like a bunch of others that are starting to show their pace as well.
Yeah, it's going to get interesting, at the very least, to see how the rest of this performance really goes for a lot of these respective teams here this weekend in regards to the composure. I'm very curious, though, for the rest of the organization, they're able to find their way in the conversation to close things up with here today. We've seen a lot of drivers make some heavy moves yesterday in regards to this class in particular. We'll have to see if that carries over here today.
Yeah, let's go down to pit lane with Alexander Soro, who's standing by with Paul Massimino.
Thank you there, Caleb. Yeah, go from Paulie on the racetrack to Paul down here on the grid. Paul, first of all, I just want to ask you, Paulie got a win, big win yesterday in KA Senior. What was that like for you as a dad, you wrenching on your son's go-kart the whole time? What was it like under that 10 after the win?
I mean, it's always good to win, obviously. We worked very hard. The kid works very hard. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just about teamwork. Everyone under the team, BJR, everyone works together. We put a plan together. We attack. We get the results.
Talk to me about X30 as well, right? Paulie looks pretty quick on board that machine, but towards the end, he fell off a little bit. I mean, what's Paulie looking for? What's he telling you as kind of the mechanic for hitting? What's he telling you that he needs for that X30 machine?
Well, honestly, for the X30, we got Chris Perez on the wrenches on there, so I don't really have too much involvement in the X30, to be honest with you. I kind of stick away from that program.
So you're just a KA guy?
Just a KA guy for this weekend.
I love it. All right, thank you.
Yes, I'll be back on the wrenches for both.
All right, thank you, Paul.
Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you.
Success throughout the years, and yeah, walking into that 10 team, Chris Perez and Paulie were tirelessly trying to get that thing fast, and for them, again, it's been a question about tire pressure all weekend long, so a huge family under that 10. He's actually fresh off of vacation. They just got back from Curacao. Brandon Jarsikrak as well with his partner, and then Paulie with his partner. They went out, enjoyed some vacation. I know Paul was out there. They were enjoying some time off, a week off as well, decompressing a little bit, because the sport can get tiring, right? For a team owner and for a driver who's a coach, a pro driver, out the racetrack all the time. So we'll see what Paulie can do later on today, but he has some challenges as well. Jose Carlos Hernandez for Orsolon Racing has been very quick so far this weekend. He's been taking the fight to them. Oliver Hodgson has been up there. Ruben Moya has been mixing things up in really both classes, right, Justin?
Yeah, absolutely. Moya in particular stood out in both classes where he, in many cases, has had to charge his way through the field and be able to pounce on a lot of the competition. That's been the tough thing for a lot of these drivers this weekend, has been trying to make passes, and Moya in particular has looked very consistent class to class in his karts to be able to compete up at the front just in the last session. Finished just behind James Overbeck in pace for the practice pace. So we'll see how Moya now does. He had a fair bit of confidence when we spoke with him about a day or so ago, and that confidence, I think, has continued to reign supreme as the weekend's progressed.
X30 Jr rolling out onto the racetrack now, and we'll see. But yesterday, I mean, in junior categories, Vanchev and the Rawson Performance Group, Royce Vega was showing good pace as well. Weiland was up there. Woon has been in the fight so far this weekend, so we'll see what they can do so far. Justin, who else has kind of stood out to you in this X30 Jr class? I mean, we've talked about Vanchev so much already, it seems like. Yeah, especially since he's been the performer when it comes to this weekend, but I think someone that's also stood out to me a little bit has been Tristan Murphy's been someone that's looked pretty solid in pace in terms of what he's been able to do. Been bounced around a fair bit as well, though, with the finals so far. So we'll have to see what happens with him. Travis Pettit has also looked pretty sporty at times this weekend, has been amongst the drivers, having charged his way from the back in the final in particular. That comes to mind playing for him. So a few different drivers have showed that they can perform if you give them track position. But the tough thing is, track position's not given, it's earned. And you have to be able to have a good qualifying run in the first place and then survive the pre-final to then be in a great position or in the big points in the final. I like that a lot, Justin. The way you phrased that, I think, was just perfect, top to bottom. And you know, it's nothing, I think, in the sport is really given to you, right? You have to earn everything. You have to earn every single race win. You have to earn every single position that you want to gain on the racetrack. For a lot of them, right? Drysdale was one of the ones who was impressive in the qualifying session. He put it on the pole position, but when you get into the main event racing and into the heat race, right, it's just, they're not going to give you the lead of the race as it goes on. You have to earn it, and you have to be up there, and that's where we saw a little bit of inexperience, I would say, from Drysdale. And I think seeing that yesterday, looking back, talking with Joni and the entire team at RPG with Mike Rawson, they're going to see what they can do differently coming into today and how he can improve. Because the one lap pace is there, the racecraft just has to get there as well, right? You have to meet each other in the middle and get themselves fast to be fast over a long run like it is, right? A lot of factors, managing tires, managing positions, when you're going to push, when you're, you know, adjusting the radiator. It's a lot of things, right? The amount of airflow that's coming in, and it's so many factors in this X30 class that we're going to see become a factor so far in the weekend. One of the surprising factors to me, I think, a driver that I've kind of been waiting to get up there. You talk about some of the REM machines. I think for me as well, Edward Kennedy has been one of the ones that we've seen up at the front, especially at the Winter Series earlier this year. He's been fighting at the front, taking the fight to some of the guys that we've seen. Had a trip over to Europe earlier this year. But it seems like that Energy Camp has just been struggling a little bit here this weekend with Caden McQueen, who's getting himself into the top 10 finally. And again, a question for them has been tire pressure. We were in that 10 earlier this weekend. Justin, what did you kind of get out of the whole conversation that we had with them? It was about trying to experiment and try and find things is what I got the sense of, because they did mention they were talking about things with the prototype side of things in the Queen Camp in particular. It's been the main thing, though, on trying to find what actually works here at a track like this with all the bumps, all the crevices you have to deal with, and all the shaking you have to deal with on the chassis. It's not like it's crystal smooth in terms of being able to have those ride heights all secure. So I think for them, it was about trying to get the experimentation down and being able to figure out what's going to work for these drivers to be able to perform in this race here today if they want to be able to stay up at the front and not just be in the top 10. You want to be higher and higher in preference, but it's going to be down to getting that experiment down correctly for your respective drivers if you are going to be able to perform. Yeah, that's been the story here for X30 Jr. Yesterday, it was honestly, I think, a different story in mini Swift, right? One of the drivers that had to sit out the main event due to a DQ was Zane Burgess. Alex Searle is standing by with his dad.
Thank you there, Caleb. Here with Kevin Burgess, Zane's dad. Kevin, I just want to know, I mean, obviously Zane, super young, super mature driver for his age, though, and just made, I guess you could say, a silly mistake, right? In the pre-final, SKUSA then decided to exclude him from the main event. Comes back today, fresh head. What was he like yesterday after the DQ? How did he kind of handle it, and what did you tell him?
Well, he handled it great. He knew he made a mistake. We just got back from Italy. Things that are allowed there isn't allowed here. And he made a mistake. He manned up to it, and new day, new attitude. He wasn't upset or anything. He was just disappointed that he didn't get a chance to race. He was hoping that they were going to let him start from the back and race, but they said no. So it's all good, and he's ready for today.
On a more positive note, right, you guys have had a lot of experience overseas now. What's that been like for the young kid?
Oh, he loves it. The biggest part is just the jet lag going back and forth, but he adapted to Europe very well, new chassis, the grip, so he's doing great.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
And that shows a lot, right? From a young kid who, realizes he made a mistake yesterday. I think it's very, very good to see that as well. And again, from last night, coming to social media, we saw, a lot of the drivers in that class as well own up to some mistakes. So we hope to see some good racing today from some of our young drivers. And it's been really, really cool to watch them all year long. In my opinion, the absolute best racing, I think, that we've really seen throughout the years. So it's been super cool to see that. These drivers have given us some great races across, the entire national circuit. We look back at Daytona, we look at Charlotte, week after week. These kids are delivering, and it's been super cool to see that here as well. We're getting close to the end of our morning show here. I know, Justin, you're going to be leaving me here soon, as soon as these mini Swifts rolls out. What are you going to get from everything we've talked about this morning?
What I'm getting is the confidence level needs to be high. You also need to make sure you have your setups all dialed in for the races here today. That's kind of the mindset so far here this weekend, is being able to perform and being able to stay consistently there. And that's what kind of is the vibe I've gotten, is the need you need to have here this weekend. And it's about building. It's about continuing the building blocks from yesterday to be able to score more points here today and start the second half of the campaign with good success.
Success is, like you said earlier, it's earned, right? Not given it. And if you want to be successful at a place like this, at what we called yesterday the Augusta of karting, you have to be perfect. You have to be on top of it every single session. You have to be ahead of the curve. You have to be better than the racetrack. You have to be better than your chassis, and you have to become one with it all. As one driver has issues coming off the grid. Looks like one of the Ruthless karting machines, the 187, with issues. But Justin, you're going to be leaving me here. Last couple of thoughts before we get into racing action here.
Well, I'm kind of thinking right now, for a lot of these drivers, can they be able to keep it clean here today? That comes to mind. We've seen a fair bit of aggression build up yesterday in some of the battles. Can we see these drivers be able to duke it on out without causing major issues and being able to get things done the right way? Can they get the consistency down? Can they earn their stripes as performers? That's on the mind here today.
Well, thank you very much, Justin, for joining me here in the morning. Mini Swift out on the racetrack. And we'll go quiet on the airwaves here for a second, catch our breaths. More coming your way live on Kart Chaser.
my job, you know? Like, yeah, guerrilla warfare, bro. That's the best part about senior. Yeah. I got in shit when I started fights with the minis. What do you mean?
Kart's on the racetrack now here from the K1 Race Gear on board, riding shotgun with Chase Gassy at Lee. What an impressive view we've got to ride with him. We've been able to be lucky enough to have himself, Ty Fisher, and Gavin Bailiff in Pro Shipper will be sporting our live onboard cameras for today's action. We've got a great view, especially a Ty in yesterday's Pro X30 main event, Justin. Now we get to ride on board with Chase on the Coastal Link Custom Printing Nash Motorsports number 13. And in the warm-up session right here, again, you can still see, even going there, perfect angle right in that infield hairpin, how cold the track still is right now. Ambient temperatures are a little bit warmer than yesterday, but there's a bit of a higher breeze than I would say. And between that and, of course, again, being the first sessions on the racetrack, the first lap or two, you're going to see a lot more hand movement for the drivers just because of the lower grip and, of course, the lower heat in the tires. But one of the best guys on low air, cold tires is on screen right here. The reigning champ and now a 2-for-3 winner of the three main events so far this season, Ryan Norberg. I don't know if you have a better way to kind of put this sport on display, Justin, than the main event we got to witness yesterday. Oh, and well, in that main, one driver we would have loved to see a little bit of was Jake Drew as we kick over to him. He seems to be probably, from what it looks like right now, Justin, breaking in an engine. So we saw him go off the racetrack pretty hard down at turn number 1. For the viewers that are watching along at home, just a bit of an FYI as to what Jake may be adjusting there, or why he is going a bit slow. When you first put a fresh piston in any of these motors, or again replace any parts, you need to run them about anywhere from 2 to 4 10-minute sessions at lower rev ranges. Really slowly break those parts in, get as much fuel load, so he'll run with a little more of a rich, as it's known, carburation setting, and then even probably reaching down and covering the airbox intake to really flood that carburetor with fuel than, say, at a different point, because you want to just, again, just like with tires, you want to slowly bring it up. You don't want to, when something's brand new, fresh, cold, doesn't have that initial kind of worn in, texturing on it. And I'm far from an engine builder or someone that knows the way around it. So I'm giving you a little bit of what it's like from the driver when I get told, hey, don't let it go above this RPM, go half throttle, let off, and so on. And that's what it looked like it might have been the case for Jake Drew, or he was doing what we've seen many times as well at a track this big, trying to reposition himself.
Yeah, we'll have to see how the day goes. And the tough thing is, if it is the engine thing, as you said, you mentioned multiple sessions needed, you don't really have that opportunity here really for the weekend, because you have the qualifying right up next for these drivers, and then you're going racing. So it's about having a quick turnaround for a lot of these respective drivers here, to be able to make sure they have all their equipment ready to go and making sure they have no issues for today and the respective races here and for the qualifying sessions. And they come up the next little bit here. But so far, so good for drivers like Norberg, for Massimino, for others like Ramos. And you pick up a touch bit, currently in the top 4 or so in session. As time goes on, Ramos been looking pretty sporty. And we talked about Moya during the pre-race coverage, amongst some of the others as well. Moya also amongst those who's looking pretty good in both of his classes here this weekend.
Yeah, Ruben Moya yesterday 3rd, and while he was relatively happy with it, he said, look, what matters is the win, and he had a shot really at both. The Pro X30 campaign didn't really seem to materialize till the last few laps of the main, maybe the second half. He got a great start, but he had to start outside the first 5 rows, and it's so tough in a class as competitive as this, as close as the times are, to be able to make up ground. And he had a great start, but still, when you've got guys like Gus Lawrence, Ryan Norberg, Austin Garrison, Paulie Massimino, they are not known to make lots of mistakes. They are normally pretty on the money. So when you are trying to make up ground and you're starting at a 2-3 second deficit, not to mention a pass going offline where they're able to run the normal line, that's huge. So in the case right here, Gus Lawrence, top of the boards in the cold conditions here for morning warm-up. He had the benefit of clean air for the first 15 laps, and he was hard at work yesterday evening, studying the data and trying to learn as much as he can about what he needs to do to be there at the end, because without a doubt, he was the driver to beat on raw pace. It obviously showed in that pre-final. And then at the same point, of course, obviously the pace just wasn't there in the last few laps where Austin Garrison and Ryan Norberg were able to turn up the wick a little bit more. This was, again, a little bit of the full onboard shot here, presented by Coastal Link Custom Printing and K1 Race Gear for Chase Gassiet Lee. And he'll be one of 3 that will be floating throughout the day. So appreciate Chase, Nash Motorsports, of course, his race team as well, for letting us have a passenger seat. One of the coolest views here that really shows, again, all the work these drivers do. And we have had to do quite a bit of extra cushioning and stability for these onboard cameras in general, just from the natural vibrations of any racetrack. But here, especially, there's a lot of character in the asphalt, and there's a lot of times that you spend not on 4 wheels to shorten the track, and that again, all is felt by the driver with no suspension, just a raw metal frame straight to the seat, straight to your rib cage. You can see Chase there. He's got his rib protector on. That's what pretty much everybody runs with, except one guy who probably is one of the best at getting over the curbs, the big guy, Danny Formal. He said he's never run with one, but pretty much every driver you'll see here is running with a rib protector, because that's the one body part really that you can break without even being in a crash. Just hitting a curb the wrong way and slamming your way into that plastic seat that you've got can crack or damage a rib. And then at that point as well, the downside to an internal injury like that, you don't quite know when it's healed. You go back and try to drive again, maybe in a month when you should have waited 2 months, and then you develop scar tissue, and all of a sudden the rehab period becomes longer and longer. So for our cameras, it really does a great job of showing you guys how physically demanding it is to race these karts at such a high level and at such high speeds, and of course even beyond that, to race to race around all the other talent around you and to stay focused. Everything comes at you so fast, and that's what makes it so impressive that down to the youngest age groups, like these 7 to 10-year-olds in Micro Swift, these 11 to 15-year-olds on screen here in KA Jr, that'll be our first group out, that they're able to have that level of thinking. We're talking kids from elementary school through right now in this group, middle school maybe at the most, the high school freshmen, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th graders, and they are having to obviously stay focused and stay on their rhythm when it comes to hitting their marks, but at the same time, slow everything down in your head and make the right decisions to play against the drivers around you.
Yeah, and that's down to some of the racecraft needed to be able to perform right, is knowing when to go, where to go, and better yet, how to approach things in each of the packs. And that is very much easier said than done, as we've touched upon, because it takes a lot of skill to be able to control the field. It takes even more precision and some luck to maintain up at the front of the field and then be able to fend off some of the charges of many of your competitors trying to leapfrog you. So for a lot of these drivers, it's about the mental fortitude to be able to try and focus up and then get the performance down. For a lot of these competitors here today, we'll have to keep an eye and see how these drivers go as qualifying gets kicked off. We're underway.
Yeah, here we go. First qualifying session of the morning. Just as with yesterday, they will be split into groups. So it will be group number 1 out on the racetrack, the bottom half from Friday practice. And then group number 2, the top half. So these are the drivers that just missed the mark a little bit in the final practice session in this massive 45-driver KA100 Jr division presented by TKG Birol Art USA. But again, don't let that fool you. You have plenty of fast cars in this group. One of them right here, Alessandro Truccio. We saw him crack the top 10 in X30 Jr yesterday. He is probably going to be a factor in KA Jr, and that's obviously what a lot of this group is thinking. You can see him trying to slow it down, not let anyone follow him, and find a gap to run in front. And the rest of the field is trying to stay, no, we want to be right in your wake, right in the hole in the air that you're going to punch. Callan Berghofer's the first one in line right behind him.
Yeah, all in a line trying to sort themselves out at this point here early on in the session. And mind you, for many of these drivers, it's going to be the matter of will they be able to punch up their own weight, to be able to get themselves into the top half of the field at the very least. And that's the top thing, is this is the bottom half for a reason. It takes some speed to be able to move up in that group. And we see a lot of these drivers are good in race pace, some of these competitors, because we see a lot of drivers back here that can gain 10, 15 spots. But for a lot of these competitors, it's also been a challenge to be able to showcase that in full song with track position. So it's the matter of seeing, will anybody be able to change up the tone of things and be able to put up a good time towards the front of the field, as Joe amongst those resets early lap times. Henry goes top of the board by about a 10th and a half for now. These drivers continue to zoom around the circuit as they progress now. Still some good separations built up as everyone falls behind the 869. That is Kidd. That leads the way in this order, and Darren Kidd amongst those looking for a better performance here today. Payne amongst those who we've seen perform pretty well when it comes to the style of racing as well. 877 looking for more, as some hand signals being made by some of the competitors in the heart of the field. Still though, drivers still have a couple more moments to be able to set up their qualifying laps. Some drivers looking to make some passes here. That's Qualy Joe, who was really good yesterday. The 871 was very quick when it came to being able to compete for the top 10. One of the drivers that we may see absolutely join the conversation once again for the top 10 if they're able to play their cards right in the race itself. Right now, setting a 1 minute qualifying laps. They need to be up around the 59-second bracket to have a shot. As one driver drops a tire, that is Barbe who drops the tire in the 874. Able to hold on for now after a bit of a wiggle that time coming through out of turn 7. Speaking of drivers off, one driver is well off. That's the 849 machine. That's, yes indeed, Davis Henry already to the barriers and trying to get way out of the grass, and this is difficult in the morning because it is very wet feeling that grass as the checker flag waves in the session.
Yeah, that'll put an end on group number 1. Lorenko Varela top of the board for PSL Karting. Just by a hair over Callan Berghofer's AKT Racing Machine. Then it's Edgar Rodriguez. Mason Kuhn ends up in the 4th spot. Jackson Elefante in 5th. Alessandro Truchot in 6th. So far, so good as we watch them come across the line for the final few. And again, that'll be the benchmark time, 59.606 for the first 20 or so.
Yeah, that's the thing I'm curious about with the 871 in particular is they're going to be amongst those probably going to have to try and move forward several positions yet again here today as a result of what they've done in qualifying. That time going to put them way far back in the running order. But Valera in particular has someone that I've seen do fairly well at times in his kart. That Barilla machine going to have to be able to battle it out pretty well to be able to find its way up to the front here today. It was stuck almost in quicksand yesterday in terms of the positions. We'll see what happens here today.
So there you have it. Again, we'll pull results really quickly for you as the grid gets set to fire. Here's where they are as they stand right now. Lorenko Varela, Callan Berghofer, Edgar Rodriguez, Mason Kuhn, Jackson Elefante. Your initial top 5. And already the engines are fired for group number 2. They're ready to roll. And we are as well for our first of 7 groups that will re-qualify today. Pro Shifter drivers are parked now until the pre-final. That'll be part of the premium coverage for the heats and finals for everybody else. But again, for those that are joining us here this morning for free coverage, once again, you'll be able to watch the Pro Shifter main event for free today starting at 1:15 p.m. Eastern, live on YouTube. And, of course, live here at the racetrack for more than 200 and, I believe, 60 drivers in attendance and hundreds and hundreds of people from all around the area and around the world congregating here in Batavia, Ohio, the traveling circus. And this event, as we've talked about, is the first of kind of this Midwest tour. And what a beautiful facility it is to kick it off at on this Memorial Day weekend. Of course, you definitely want to take a moment here on this outlap while things begin to sort out on track to say a thank you to all of our servicemen and women who have made it possible for us to enjoy the likes of our sport and all of the freedom that we get to have here in the United States. At the end of the day, that's what this weekend is all about, those that have paid the ultimate price for our freedom. And for me and you, Justin, to be able to get to watch some of the best drivers in North America and around the world, right from one of the best vantage points that you can ask for, and that is our fantastic all-star camera crew and production team that have been bringing you all the action all day yesterday, all day again today, and back at it again with more events pretty much every single weekend over the summer and beyond. With the first lap now complete, you can see this is the time for me when I would try to play the qualifying sessions that I would begin to reposition. I wouldn't really play into unless I really needed, unless I was on the other half of the track from a lot of fast drivers in the outlap when everyone's really slow. I want to let everyone else get into a rhythm and start to focus on their laps and then try to see if I can catch them off guard, not have them thinking about me trying to get right behind them because, you know, you saw Valentino Santi in there drop back. Now you see on screen here, Travis Pettit, he's gone to the front of this group of 3. John McClellan at the tail end of that pack. And some passes in the middle between Max Weiland and Nathan Dupuis, but still, they're both close enough to the carts in front that they could get a nice toe lap when they reset, and you're looking really for that money lap to kind of hit on lap 3 or lap 4. I think either or is probably good for the drivers in KA100s and Mini and Micros. They're using the Avinco Blue compound. That's the harder of the 2 Avinco tire compounds. So you're not going to necessarily have it fall off as much by design, as the Avinco Red's the softer compound that's used in Pro X30 and Pro Shifter. So you can kind of turn it on and then hit your mark either on lap 3 or lap 4, and that's why these drivers here in a group like this, it's okay. If you do get past her, you have to make a pass because you're a bit too close on lap 3, or you might be close enough on lap number 4. I think you've really got 2 chances. This first lap here was really going for them. This was lap number 2. We've already seen a handful populate to the top. Indy Anderson on screen here in the 886 for J. Howard Driver Development. Now your quickest at a 59.544. He was identical in lap time to Cole Medeiros. And Alexander Vanchev from this group as well has jumped to 3rd. Lourenco Varela's time still holding in 4th there from the first group.
A lot better of a day so far, Medeiros. We barely seen Medeiros yesterday towards the front of the field. That was an afterthought, I would argue, in terms of the pace. But it's still going to be important to be able to execute here today. Anderson was amongst those that seemed very sporty in the J. Howard Driver Development machine to be able to try and make passes yesterday in terms of being able to be up at the front. Already seen a lot of shuffling, though, as overall, Max Weiland jumps to the top of the board by 14 one-thousandths of a second.
Big lap there for Mad Max. The entire grid picked up nearly half a second on that lap. Checkers flew, and they only got 3 laps in for the time on this session. So just like that, quick and gone. No 4 laps for anyone. I believe yesterday a couple of drivers might have gotten them, but today everyone only in KA Jr. getting 3. So Weiland, a 58.91. And you can see they're still going at full song. I don't think anyone made it to the loop before the checker flew. Indy Anderson, a great 3rd lap to back up that awesome 2nd lap. Has him provisionally on the 2nd spot on the outside of the front row. And coming around that final turn as they'll begin to make their way down that front straightaway and over and into the scale line area. There we go. Weiland, Anderson, big lap out of Max Christia. They're in 3rd on the 839. Valentino Santi and Alexander Vanchev. And then Jackson Gibson, 6th. Tristan Murphy, Dupuis, Golset, Pettit, your top 10. You saw Travis leading the train around. Lourenco Varela holding on. That's a great 14th place out of a group where the fast group is 23 deep. That's punching above your weight class.
Yeah, absolutely here, to say the very least, able to jump up as a result. And now we see a lot of these competitors look to see where they perform later on today. It's going to be important for these drivers to be able to run well, as Max Weiland, full of smiles, getting part 1 of the job done to try and get a victory here today. And that's the goal. Get first places, not just seconds or thirds. He wants to score points here today.
Well, he's going to need more of that again. This points fight for KA100 Jr. is about as close as you can call it. They entered the weekend in a 3-way tie. Weiland, Vanchev, and Tristan Murphy off of Alexander Vanchev's win yesterday. He's extended to make it all by himself at the top of the point standings. 781 markers, and then back 29 to Mad Max. Nathan Dupuis, his round 3 result has provisionally put him up to 3rd. Tristan Murphy's has bumped him down to 4th. But again, as with all of the other double main classes, including Pro X30, it's your best 5 of 6 rounds on the season. So a bad round doesn't necessarily take you out of the championship running. And that could, of course, be huge for the likes of the drivers further back, like Isaac Malcutt, who provisionally sits 6th. By the math, he would be almost completely eliminated from the championship, as if today were the last day, being just shy or just over 200 points back, 203 out of the lead pre-drops. But with the drops, he'll end up being a whole lot closer. Jackson Gibson, 6th in the points coming into today. Travis Pettit, yesterday is a prime example of where those drops can really help you. He obviously had just a bummer main event. Had to start at the rear, drove up halfway through the grid, got to 23rd of the 46, and then got crashed right as we went to pick him up, Justin. Then the red flag happened. Then he tried to charge back forward again. Contact sent him back down the board. So for Travis Pettit, yesterday, 1 to forget, 1 to go on the drop, and now he needs 3 perfect rounds to close out the year to give him a chance to fight for the title. Micro Swift looking over at how they've stacked up right now, this one's actually still a bit separated as we've got some problems for the 299 off to the side. That is, let's see if we can figure out.
Jackson Brewster.
Jackson Brewster off to the wayside there. Let's go down to pit lane here while this first group gets ready to roll for their first qualifying session of the day, or their only qualifying session of the day for this group, with our top qualifier in KA Jr, Alex.
Aiden Go jumping to the top of the board in the qualifying session, able to set the fastest time. Yet again, backing up the pace showcased yesterday in the 278 Kart. Checker flag already waving. Dutch Westbrook, Bertie Stoffel, and then you have Sleep Harrell. That's once again showcasing speed today, looking to do better than top 7 pace. Lennox Lockhart also amongst the top 5 in the session so far here today. You also throw Jack Kotowski up there with Samuel Chavarri in 7th, Joe in 8th, and Caldera in 9th, with Godshocks shockingly all the way down in 10th position, 8/10 off the pole time. As a result of the qualifying session for Micro Swift by Velocity Racing by Sodi USA. Good qualifying session put up on the board here today by this class of note. Bo Wyatt way far back down in 11th among some of the notables there. Knific with a better qualifying performance than yesterday, able to get up to 14th on the pylon for this one. So next up in the order will be the Master Shifters, brought to you by Rocket Racing Company, that will look to battle themselves forward here in the qualifying sessions. Take a look at those drivers in just the next moments or so. Remember yesterday, it was very sporty when it came to the speed from Presti in the races. We'll see if he's able to carry that to short run pace. That wasn't as evident yesterday. We do have some track cleanup, it looks like, before we get going here in the session. Let's take a quick step aside. More coverage coming up here on Kart Chaser. The Spring Nationals continues after this.
Brandon, why are there all these charges for just over $200?
I'm tired of all this Brandon business, okay? Brandon this, Brandon that. Why are there all these expenses on AKR over $200? We know, okay? Take a walk with me. At Shop AKR, they have everything you need to start racing at a very cheap and affordable price. They have MXC rims, they got chains, electrical stands, tilt seats, they got MXCs. And if you didn't know, on top of that, any purchase in the continental US over $200, that's free shipping. Hey, aren't you supposed to be in the AKR Anonymous meeting over there? Dude, I'm doing a commercial. Dude, we have no time. It's about to start. Stop. We all love Shop AKR. Me? More than others. What do I get at Shop AKR? MXC rims.
Kyle, what are you doing?
It's got my new Greyhound seat.
You don't even have a cart.
Doesn't matter. I have a Greyhound.
Who the f is Kyle Cuthbertson? Doesn't even have a go-kart.
Doesn't matter.
Cuthbertson through on Turney. Turney in the dirt.
Attention Superkarts USA drivers. Be sure to order your complete photo package from On Track Promotions. All drivers receive a minimum of 40 photos from throughout Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with instant access from our automated delivery system. Visit otp.ca right now to get instant access to your photos.
Kart's now hitting the racetrack for Master Shifter qualifying, as we have 9 competitors ready to see where they will shake up here in this one. Justin Prince alongside Center Clements as we continue on with our qualifying coverage here in Kart Chaser here this morning from MCC Cincinnati. We are just about ready to see what these drivers can do here in this grouping of drivers. Earlier today in terms of the warm-up sessions, how did things go for those wondering? Well, the warm-up sessions went like this. It ended up going to Hargrove's way on the short run in the 54.2s. That's the benchmark to keep an eye on for the qualifying session. Scott Presti was in the 54.3s. Drivers like Sketchy Barnes were down in the 56.6s, feeling things out. We'll see what changes here in the qualifying. So we continue to search around and see where the grip falls on for these drivers. Hargrove yesterday able to pick up a win in the pre-final, but fell off in the long run in the final. See what happens for him today in terms of improvement. Yesterday, for reference, showcased that pace, as mentioned, short one. The first 5 laps in particular seemed to show and sparkle in that kart. The driver also summoned now. We do have Caleb standing on by with Justin Kelly's wife, Caleb.
Thank you, Justin. I'm standing by here with Tiffany Kelly. You'd be out there on the racetrack right now, but you and your husband are obviously expecting. So congrats to you guys. And how does it feel being on the sidelines this weekend?
It's definitely different. I want to be out there. I miss the Masters class. It's so fun to drive with them, so it's kind of hard to watch, but it's, I'm looking forward to it. And then once we have a baby, hopefully they'll be in the class with everybody else. So, yeah.
Are you giving the husband any advice this weekend?
Actually, yeah, I think I'm his best mechanic so far. No, I'm just kidding. I am. It's a hard track to adapt with all the changes that's been happening with the weather, but he's been doing good. I'm trying to push him a little bit, so yeah. Hopefully his driving doesn't change being a father is what everybody says.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, we'll wish you guys the best of luck, and hopefully you can get a good qualifying spot here today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yep. It's good to be here.
Yeah.
Ms. Kelly seeming very happy on the sidelines here today, or at least watching how Justin Kelly does in terms of qualifying. Right now, Kelly is in 5th position in this session. Already have burned about 3 minutes off the clock so far. Right now, it's Presti who's showing some short run pace today, up on the pole by 0.4 of a second now in this session over Larry Pegram, who also had good qualifying yesterday. Pegram, amongst one of the drivers that has plenty of experience here in the club scene on top of things to be able to perform at MCC Cincinnati. Right now, Sketchy Barnes still needing to find some pace. He is half a second off the pace of the pole sitter, with the official victory going his direction. One of a couple drivers that seen some changes once the podium celebrations went on. Hargrove jumping to the top of the board. He jumps up to the top of the 53.691. That's 0.3 quicker than here's Baldus, who puts up a stellar qualifying performance. So the CRG machine joining the conversation and making things a little bit interesting here. Just like that, jumping ahead of Sketchy Barnes and Scott Presti. Also up there as well, Larry Pegram. Then you have Kelly, followed by Gilbo and Castles. Lopez has not hit the racetrack early this weekend in terms of their respective qualifying runs. So the interval difference once again amongst your top 5, about near 0.6 of a second. So far, it looks like Hargrove's short run pace yet again carrying over to today. But also, here's Baldus finding some track position after being amongst the drivers fighting around 5th or 6th spot yesterday. So qualifying now getting ready to continue on with our storylines here today. Next up on the blocks in about 40 minutes is KA100 Sr. That's brought to you by Nash Motorsports for that respective lineup. KA100 Sr. so far on the day. James Overbeck's been the quickest in that class. The BJR machines have looked very, very sporty in terms of their average pace, in terms of the raw speed. Here this weekend, Paulie Massimino has already showcased that running the chassis this weekend in KA100. Continuing on with the qualifying. It's going to be fun. Let's take a listen into the sights and sounds around the racetrack as we get ready for our next group in a couple minutes' time. Karts now on the racetrack for qualifying for KA100 Sr. as they look to try and sort themselves out and set their best possible times here. Once again, 45 entrants amongst the entry list here this weekend for these classes. So we'll see how qualifying starts off for all these drivers. Should see things split up in two in theory. Once again, for these respective drivers, based on the field size, we'll see where they truly sort out in this time block. So amongst some of the drivers that we're seeing on the racetrack, that's the 970 that we've seen on focus for a split second. That is Vladimir Potavenkovic, who is looking to do well here today. The 954 also amongst those on the racetrack. The 954 machine, that is Max Saga. That is looking to go, Max Saga should say, who is amongst the drivers that looked pretty solid yesterday. Amongst some of the other drivers to note here, the Lemieux are on the circuit right now. You also throw in drivers like Seth Lucas, Isaac Garner, amongst many others. Autumn Fisher, also a rising star this season on the racetrack at the moment, amongst this field running order. Keep an eye and see how many of these drivers are able to set a strong benchmark here today amongst this pace on the racetrack. Let's see where the times fall for the first time around through the session. Already near 2 minutes burned off the clock. Looking like 59-second lap times to start things off as the tires build some heat into them. As touched upon, these drivers in these classes going to have tires that heat up by the third or fourth lap for the fastest lap they can get potentially on the racetrack here today. Nico Serpati at the top of the board for the moment in one of the GFC machines at the top of the board for now. Right now it's the only driver to break the 59-second plane. Mauricio Hernandez is in a 1-minute 001 in terms of average pace so far. Coming around for the second time around in this respective group. The 975, the Pied Piper, and Rocco Orchetti this time by. The times get fluctuating once again. And Barr, who went upside down at one point yesterday, jumping up to 8th on the track. Sarvati staying at the top of the board, though, with a 58.676 for now. Sarvati continues on in this session. As we see these drivers zoom once again. Sarvati, an official team driver for GFC this season. One of the drivers that also has been able to pick up some world record attempts so far on iRacing, interesting enough, at tracks like VIR, in terms of his sim racing path also. But speaking of pathways, it's time to see where the times fall. Up to the top of the board for now. Out goes Lemieux.
Nico Sarfati's time still holding from earlier. His third lap, one of the first to cross the line, 58.96 was his previous. So his second lap, his best, a 58.67. But the time to beat, a 58.607. 58.789 for Carlo Rochetti. And Christian Velez, Ben Gaunt, Autumn Fisher, Max Saga, Hamza Abu Anbar back today after a scary moment in yesterday's main event. An up and over crash for him. He was okay, obviously cleared by the on-site medical team. Back out on track today at a 59.23 for his best time here in Group 1's qualifying session. A sold-out house for KA Senior to match the KA Juniors for the fourth consecutive race. Actually, I think you got to probably go back and really count 5 with the Super Nationals having a full house in KA Junior and KA Senior. Part of that, of course, this year, you've got a star-studded cast at the front with the exclusion clause lifted and a lot of our Pro X30 stars getting in some laps in KA100 Sr. Now, you see Paulie Massimino. This is similar to what he did yesterday. He does not want to be around a pack. He's just going to put in a decent lap by himself, confident in his own pace. Actually, this is unplanned.
Now, there goes the starter to try and get him fired back up, and he's going to be near nobody here, except for a few people who got stuck behind him in the queue. So Massimino going to have a tough time here, not going to have the draft essentially to start things off for the session.
Yeah, unfortunate there for Paulie. Well, Millie, I would say probably more for the drivers behind him. The one driver that did wait on him, Brandon Lemke. So we'll have to wait till the very end of the third lap to see where those two fall, with being about half the track behind your main field of karts. But a 58.607 for Antoine Lemieux. Let's check in with yesterday's pole sitter here rolling through. That was Fernando Luque ripping on by on the BJR machine. The youngster from Mexico stayed up in the mix in a good bit of the pre-final in the main, a little bit less so, but he definitely had his moments at the pointy end of the field. And he's got a lot of experience, and obviously the full onboard and data analysis from yesterday's winner in Paulie Massimino, and knowing how to navigate the field and how to part the seas to get through it, because you just know with the amount of talent in this field, so many programs performing at a high level, that it's so hard to get away. It's so hard also to stay up in the first couple spots for a good chunk of that main event in the first half, and for pretty much end to end of the pre-final, Justin. It was all the way 10 deep, 11 deep in that lead pack. I think we'll see a lot of the same today, and usually another day of on-track activity tightens the field up even more. There's a limit to how fast you can go, and while the track is going to develop a little bit more, the massive changes in the racetrack were more so seen from Friday to Saturday than they will be here from Saturday to Sunday, because we had that all the rain through the week, and that really bled into almost the entirety of Thursday's unofficial test day, where only the last session of the day had sticker tires. So you spent basically one session to clean the track back off Thursday afternoon. Friday is 5 rounds of practice. That's a good amount, but then you tack on another 4 rounds of activity and double the length of any of the regular practice sessions for a main event, and the same length as happy hour is the pre-final. So that's a lot more rubber going down. I mean, everyone gets new tires both days of activity here at the SKUSA Pro Tour. So 260 sets of Avinco tires were then bolted on yesterday. Another 260 bolted on today. But it just you have that kind of slow plateau. I believe the right term is decreasing return. I guess I can't remember exactly the name of it. I should remember a little more from my calculus classes. But it's been a moment. Regardless, James Overbeck, good lap for him to go to 4th, now 5th, now further back. His teammate Luque with a big time burner on lap number 2, 58.095. Henry Wheeler on the Mike Doty Racing LN Kart to 2nd. Cooper Auclair 3rd. We follow them a little bit. We're staying on this group here. These are the first couple that went out. Ruben Moya in the front there on the Pontano 4-direction chassis, 4-direction Motorsports entry. Jose Carlos Hernandez on the green and black Orsolone Tony Kart. Overbeck, the reigning champ, there 3rd in line. And then I believe that's Keegan Kaminsky, 4th in the tow on the black and white GFC. Diego Ramos kind of lurks back there by himself. I think he's going to be a bit too far back to get the benefit of the tow here on this last lap around.
Yeah, surprising from Moya to say the least. Hasn't even beaten the top times from the first session so far. The first grouping of cars, should say, so far. Let's see if there's any change here. Looks like Moya able to improve a fair bit to get up towards the top of the board. Ramos jumps up top with a 57.934. Kaminsky also looking fast. We'll see where Massimino's time falls, as he's still yet to cross the line.
Yeah, they're going to cross right now. Pauly up to 4th and into looks to be 7th for Eli Warren with a late lap. 10th for Brandon Lemke, trailing Massimino around. So a better qualifying effort for Pauly Massimino. But Brazil reigns in KA Senior Qualifying. Diego Ramos puts the PSL Karting Bureau Art on the pole. Kaminsky with a fantastic qualifying effort for the Formula Works GFC. Ruben Moya 3rd. That's a great spot to fight from here, especially with the back-to-back left-hand inside corners for the start sequence. Massimino on the outside of row 2. Luque still on the inside lane, just back on row 3. Overbeck will join him on that row. Then it'll be Eli Warren with an improvement from yesterday. Henry Wheeler in 8th. Finn Bailiff in 9th. And you can just see how extremely close the field is. Ramos got a whole 10th and a quarter on the pack. I wasn't sure if he was going to be close enough to get the tow. And then at that moment, James Overbeck passed Jose Carlos Hernandez. It really hurt Hernandez. He's going to end up 15th, getting passed on that final lap. It still was his best, but he was probably tracking better than that. And that backed them up enough to help the 921 break into the 57 second bracket. So Diego Ramos will lead us to green for the KA Senior pre-final. 3 groups remain for qualifying. X30 Jr, Mini Swift, and Pro X30. All 3 should be run in 2 separate groups. So the engine should be firing any moment here for X30 Jr.
Yeah, X30 Jr should be interesting once again. Yeah, Max Weiland has looked very good. Of course, the talk of the town, though, of Alexander Vanchev, who's looking to try and get the double win yet again here today. They're expected to be very quick once again to go back and forth for that race lead. It's the question, can they back it up?
You intentionally ran narrower because you knew I was passing you. ¿Qué quedaste, Chuy? Verga, yo 11, güey. 15.
Karts rolling for Rawls Performance Group X30 Jr. The first of the two groups headed out onto the circuit now. Cole Medeiros from Racing Edge Motorsports, again, just lined by kart numbers. This group, again, split off of Friday happy hour. Lorenco Varela there in the middle on the Biro Art. You saw Sandro Truscio again having a fight out of the slow group. Couple other names I can pick out so far. Edward Kennedy there on the Energy. There is the 719 Aluka Popescu. He cracked into the top 10 yesterday as well. There's Ethan Sky Manuchik on the Rocket Racing Company entry. Good amount of drivers that were able to salvage some solid finishes in Saturday's main event that are still having to go out first. And again, this is another thing about Sunday is the track will get a little bit better, but assuming that, again, the ambient temperature, the surface temperature isn't changing, that there's no inclement weather changes, the dynamic of the rubber improvement from one session to the next, not as drastic, should be a little bit easier to fight out of. However, that wasn't the case for KA Sr. for the man that'll be standing on the pole. He was able to do it out of the fast group on the final lap. Caleb's got Diego Ramos.
Diego, what a lap there. You've had really good pace in KA. Struggling a little bit on the X30 side. I think let's talk about KA. It seems like it's definitely gone your way.
Yeah, like I told you, the car felt really good. As well, the engine. I think we are doing a really good job. We find speed a bit in the X30, but in KA, I just feel comfortable. Had a good lap in Qualy. The race is gonna be fight every lap. A bit unlucky yesterday, but today we're gonna do everything.
I know that for you guys from the Avinco Blues to the Avinco Reds, are you learning anything setup-wise, track-wise that you can from 100 cc to 125?
I mean, it's a bit different because I think the sidewall and the rubber and the tire is a bit different. But yeah, for sure you learn something. When you drive in the reds, that the sidewall is a bit softer, and then we go in the reds that it's the yellows. You struggle a bit in the sidewall. But yeah, we did a big adjustment Friday for yesterday, and seems like that works with the Vincorad, and we keep working. Every time that we change something, we work really hard. We find speed, and it's like this life.
Thank you, Diego.
Thank you.
Diego Ramos with his thoughts as we continue on with this qualifying group. 3 minutes complete on the board as they continue to shuffle. Saravalli jumps to the top with a 57.4. And X30 Jr. just like that for the time being. We'll see if that sticks up to the top. You also have Bristol Bourneman and Peyton Anderson. Amongst your top three so far, Anderson amongst the drivers who looked relatively sporty yesterday in terms of what they were able to do on the racetrack. Of note, to show amongst those who was able to charge in some of the races yesterday in his respective classes, the 752 yet again down on the pylon of the Paralympic machine, down in 10th. That stands out. Calderon had also been amongst the drivers who was able to cut ahead before some incidents sparked him backwards a little bit in the final running orders on the day in the 799 kart. Checker flag waves in this group as we have some changes. Up to the top goes Anderson, able to take the top spot by 44 one-thousandths of a second as a crash.
Turn two. This is on the cool-down lap. Right after getting the checkers, three drivers together. Matthias Brokeren, the 728 of Anderson. Peyton Anderson, you can see that is a heavily damaged left rear portion of the rear axle for Peyton. Fastest in the first group at a 57.262, but it'll be a bumpy ride and a long bumpy ride at that, trying to go slow to not rattle himself too much. Look at this. He's going to try and limp it all the way to the pit lane. With that big of a rattle as well, you obviously worry about damaging the kart also and potentially knocking the chain off. So Peyton's going to do the smart thing here, pull off to the side and be rescued by the kart recovery trailer. So seems like a bit of a disagreement of who was at fault, and I believe the other one involved is the 781. That's Assad Nikadambev.
Yeah, that rear end really damaged from the contact, it looks like. So a lot of drivers going at the very least see their times fall down the board likely as a result here of these contacts. We did have a change at the very end with Iraga jumping to the top of the board by about a 100th of a second. The tough thing is, for some of the drivers involved in the incident, are they going to be able to get the karts fixed in time for the racing later on today? That's going to be easier said than done, as the 756 of Munsto is getting lifted now over the fencing to be able to get them off the racetrack. Here's a look at the Shop AKR replay. Get cool down lap. Start off with 781 missing the corner, and that's because there was a spun car in front. The Kart blocking the road caused the incident.
Yeah, so I guess they all just locked the brakes up from Matthias Broerken going around right on the apex. And again, turn 2 is relatively blind from turn number 1, so you don't really know what you're driving into until you get to corner exit. And right when you get to corner exit is right about not far from the braking marker. You get down to that regular racing groove brake marker pretty quickly. So then you've got to get on the binders even harder and make an adjustment, go offline, go into the dirty part of the racetrack that's going to have less grip than right here with this great angle. You can see how much rubber has built up. Look at some of the load, especially in the higher speed corners, like this quick left-hander before they go up the hill. Not only that, that dark patch on the right is, of course, compounded by how many drivers are shortening the track by cutting the curb on the inside. And then at the same point again, while it's laying down a ton of rubber by the outside tire with all the load going, especially the outside front, but even a bit on the outside rear, you've got then the chunks of rubber that spits off the tire and gets naturally blown and pushed off to the side. That's what we call, again, the marbles and the dirty side. So when they go wide today, when I said that there wasn't a ton of development from a grip level standpoint, I still stand by that. But in terms of the lack of grip offline and the dirtiness that you get when you have to go side by side on the outside of a corner, that will be something that will be much more treacherous, I feel like, this afternoon than any other point on the weekend when the round 4 mains roll and when that pro shifter main event kicks it all off at 1:15.
Yeah, that's going to be a battle around the racetrack to make sure you don't lose that grip level, and better yet, lose that preferred line. And it becomes a game amongst these drivers once you take away that preferred line here today of, can you force that driver to then, as a result, to make that mistake as they battle out. So far, though, Venchev looking on his own for this session. He was able to pull on his own in X30 Jr on raw pace yesterday in the final. He's looking very much so in a similar case here in the qualifying session, leading this field and preferring to be on his lonesome. He said yesterday, again emphasized, he doesn't like trains all that much. He likes to be able to run away.
Well, I'm sure every driver would prefer a race like what Alexander Vanchev, Justin, got to experience on Saturday in X30 Jr. KA Jr. maybe less so, but that was a picture-perfect afternoon end-off for the 796. Got the pole, led early, maybe had to defend a little bit on the opening lap, and by the end of lap 1 of the 20-lap main, he already had enough of a gap that he could just focus on putting in good laps, and he did that all the way to a 3+ second margin of victory to the next best driver. It helped a little bit as the battle pack kind of ensued behind him, but right now, by his lonesome, not the best. Third on his second lap, his opening lap much slower. He was still kind of getting everything dialed, but Nate Golseth, new quick time, the 730 Ryan Perry Motorsport driver at a 56.65. You can see he's positioned at the end of this train. And this is the risk versus reward that you were mentioning about Vanchev not wanting to be a part of the rest of the pack, especially in his case coming off a win yesterday. You know no one's going to want to let you follow. They're going to try to follow you. But Nate Golseth, a crash in yesterday's main has him flying under the radar here in X30 Jr. He's on the back bumper now, or will be by the time we hit the timing loop, of a pretty major pack of a lot of fast drivers, including podium finishers from yesterday like Max Weiland. So let's see if he can continue to stay on top of the pylon. Vanchev will not beat him on his third lap, so it won't be a back-to-back pole. Jackson Gibson cannot do better. Golseth will improve again. Third lap around. Nate Golseth, 56.349, a 1/10.5 clear on the rest of the field. And Tristan Murphy Joining him now at the front as Golseth goes by one. There was Ashton Woon, who spun around at the exit at turn number 1. We'll see if we can take a look at that and figure out what transpired for the former Super Tune driver, but the Speed Concepts Racing Carlos Sainz machine. And as the times officially update now here, Nate Golseth, top of the pylon. First career X30 Jr Pole Award, I believe, for the driver that is searching for his first national win. Could today be the day for the Dallas, Texas native Nathan Golseth? Tristan Murphy second, Vanchev third. Oh, there's still more to go. The last line got a 4th lap in. He'll hold it by a nose at the line. Max Weiland will jump to second on a 56.438. Golseth had to make a pass that lap. It slowed him down, but it was still good enough at the back of the train. First career pole award for Nathan Golseth. Weiland, Murphy, Vanchev's 4th lap will keep him 4th by himself. That's the difference probably of the slipstream effect there. A 10th and 3/4. The difference from Alexander Vanchev to Nathan Golseth. Tyrone Kemper Jr. looking for more here today. He ends up 5th out of 56.541. Cole Medeiros, P6 on the Racing Edge Motorsports Cosmic. Travis Pettit, Kyle Drysdale, our top qualifier from yesterday. He had a rough go on round number 3, P8.
You have Helfin and Gibson also up there as well. Ashton Woon, a surprise. We've seen him perform very well yesterday where he had at least top 5 pace. Not today, all the way down in 11th. You also have some of the other drivers that are going to have to make some big charges. Barbet going to be on, so let's keep an eye on who started towards the tail yesterday, up in 16th here in this qualifying session.
You were the first car to kick checker.
Thanks.
You were the first car to kick checker, but it was close on time, so if you didn't see it, yeah, you're good. You're good.
Come on.
Good job, Tristan. Good job, Nate.
Yeah.
Yes, dude. Come on.
Not terrible. It was moving about. Huh? So, you know, it was going up and down.
About what happened with the checker flag. Waved the checker, and you guys went again. Yeah, because it was like they waved checker. He was the first car under checker, the RPG, and these two were right behind him. That's why it came out. They ended up going one more time because it was the way the timing was when he threw it. But he was the first one to take checker.
So using this, we got the extra line, but I don't like that. We lost it yesterday. We do a scan and we get it and do an extra one. And today, it's.
Travis, 7. I got 7? I didn't expect to be on pole in this.
Third.
I don't know. But yeah, the engine wasn't no bueno. Oh, bottom and top.
Yeah, right.
Mini Swift now heading the racetrack as we continue on with qualifying. This brought to you by Speed Concepts Racing. So let's see who's got the concept of speed together here today. Couple drivers having some issues because there's already a stack up at the pit exit. Someone is stuck to the left side of the racetrack in a very awkward spot here.
Yeah, who do we got there? That is the 171 just off to the side and unable to get out on track for qualifying for group number 1 here in Speed Concepts Racing Mini Swift. What a bummer for him.
RJ Brown was that driver.
So RJ Brown will not join the field here for Mini Swift group number 1 qualifying. He'll have to go to the rear of the 30 driver grid. That's a bummer for him to start his Sunday. On the flip side of that coin, though, the best starting spot. First time for this young man doing it on the SKUSA Pro Tour National Stage in X30 Jr. Nate Golseth is standing by with Caleb.
Thank you, Xander. Nate, last time you were here, you put it on the front row in what was, one of your breakout weekends on the national circuit. This weekend, you put it on the pole position. How does it feel, man?
It feels great, honestly. Yesterday, obviously, wasn't a great day. Bad finish in a DNF and X30. But yeah, I knew we had good pace yesterday. I was excited to get into the final. Just sucks that we didn't get the chance to finish it. Yeah, I'm going to be honest, I didn't expect to get pole, but yeah, set it up good. And
yeah, I mean, I think you set that up perfectly, right? Yesterday, I want to talk about the race because you got a DNF and you were taking pictures halfway through it, right? I mean, how good does it feel to turn around from yesterday to bounce back like this?
yeah, so, I mean, yesterday it was a tough day for sure. I mean, that was probably the most fun I've had during the day, just getting to take photos. You have to keep your spirits up. You can't get down on yourself because then you'll have a bad attitude going into the next day. And I knew there was another round today. So, I mean, yeah, you have to bounce back and keep your hopes high. And I knew we would have pace going into the day. And yeah, we got it done.
Congrats, Nate.
Thank you.
Nate Golseth still staying focused, obviously. You can't get too high off the highs. You can't get too low off the lows to be the best. You have to stay locked in. Starting on the pole, Justin, it's great. But as we saw yesterday, many pole winners, unfortunately, didn't make it to end up on the podium, much less the top step, by the time the checkered flew on the main.
Yeah, there was a lot of attrition that popped up yesterday. We also have a bulletin that already came through to confirm for Santiago Orioli. DQ for the weekend is the bulletin as of 10:07, just to confirm in his situation. Remember, there was that incident that he had at the very end of the race that sees him done now for the weekend. So one less Kart going to be popping up from all that attrition we've seen build up during this weekend's action.
First laps in now here for Mini Swift. How about the run from Clayton Stiles in the 117, the Iron Rock Motorsports driver? A 63.398 at the end of lap number 2. He's right now trailing Axel Garcia's Speed Concepts racing machine, and it should be a really good lap again for him because Axel is still getting a bit of a sniff of the draft on the car in front of him as well. Let's see what the 117 can do at the end of lap number 3. This should be the end. X30 Jr were fast enough that the first few drivers were able to get 4. That won't be the case for the minis. So this will be the lap. Who's got it at the line? Big lap out of Eric Wojciechowski. Garcia will go better, and he'll even improve over Stiles. So Axel Garcia to the top by a 10th. Clayton Stiles back to second. Good lap out of Mauro Nario. He moves up to third.
Good run by Nario overall, actually, in the qualifying session was amongst the drivers that showed some good prowess yesterday before the attrition ended up biting him in the race. Now it's going to be a matter of how will the rest of the competitors really shuffle things out. We have a lot of heavy hitters like James Francisco, Zane Burgess to keep an eye on, Enzo Di Gennaro, amongst the drivers who I'll be keeping an eye on here today. Of course, Wayne Gottschalk also amongst that name list, and Ashton Wyatt looking to replicate what was showcased yesterday.
Let's see as they roll on into the scale line. 12 drivers from group number 1 should put it, I think, a little bit more, maybe around the 15 marker here for group number 2. Might be 14. We had 29 on the pre-entry list for many. Obviously, we had that bummer off the grid for the 171 of R.J. Brown, unable to join the field for this session. So I would put us approximately at right around 14, maybe 13 in the fast group. And the first kid out is going to be our fastest from Friday, Jaden Francisco in the Ryan Perry Motorsport Nitro Kart. They're trying to clear out the carburetor here because they obviously will fire the engine up about a minute beforehand. And while they've got it to go, in the probably couple of seconds, he was pushing the button and giving it some throttle, which opens, of course, the fuel intake to the carburetor. It might have flooded, and they were worried about him getting away. The rest of the pack, obviously, the drivers that have fired up, you have an overload of fuel, too much, and the engine will bog down. And whoa, we have one in the fence. That is the 196 that is stuck against the wall.
Alex Chandler.
And there you can hear in the background there, the mechanic for Alex obviously frustrated with the fact that they were not blending the drivers on their own, and the drivers themselves were all jockeying for position and not letting each other into line to go from double file to single file to get out onto the racetrack through the grid exit. And now Alex Chandler, not only is he away from the pack and going to have to qualify by himself, or at least he would if this group doesn't go slow enough to back up to him, but he'd also run the risk of only getting 2 laps in compared to 3. I think right now, though, this group might lose their 3rd lap also if they're not careful.
Yeah, they're busy trying to figure out where they're going to line up in the first place in this respective pack. So far, a lot of jockeying amongst these drivers to sort out where they want to go as we get things going for this session for these drivers. See what they can do, and so far, 115 running away. That is Gubert, who is leading things off on the track. The rest of the field still playing games to try and sort out where they want to be in the queue.
Big move down the inside for Enzo Di Janeiro in the 190. And there we go again. Enzo shrugged at them because at this point now, backing off on the second lap, or the first lap timed the way that these kids are, you risk an impeding penalty because the drivers behind, they were obviously full bore. Enzo, I think, was gearing up for a lap on this first try by, obviously not able to get it done.
Yeah, the whole track is basically getting clogged by drivers just trying to sort themselves out, but my thought is you have to put up a time, you have to put up a fast banker at least, to be able to then go and try and sort yourself out for starting position. A lot of these drivers playing the tire game, it looks like, in terms of the heat, in terms of making sure they line things up. They didn't play these games yesterday.
Yeah, they did not, but for the drivers off of yesterday's qualifying that ended up outside the top 5 spots, they're probably saying the difference was whether or not they got a toe lap. And even still, we're fighting for the lead here. That was a pass made by the 111 machine of Cameron Johnson to go ahead of his Paralympic teammate in Enzo De Janeiro. And now Zane Burgess. That one looked a bit rough. I don't know if he bent the axle or if that was just in a bumpy part of the racetrack for the Speed Concepts Racing Sodi. But that go-kart definitely has a little more movement on the back 2 tires than it seems like the rest of them do. So I don't know if that was just my eyes deceiving me there. It may have been. It's definitely a track, as we mentioned, quite a bit with a good amount of character. He seems to be all right with it regardless, now finding a hole behind Aston Wyatt.
Yeah, even with that little bit of rattling noticing here too, but let's see where these times now start to go now that they're at full attack. Wyatt towards the top of the session. He does hold on to a 102.7. The fastest time for now, and Garcia's time still is sticking from the other pack, meanwhile, interesting enough, against the fast competitors so far, but we still have one more lap to see where they really stack up.
Enzo De Janeiro now bailing out of line. Now, in his case, I think he should be okay from any impeding penalty arguments. He was by himself, got off the racing groove, let the pack go, and then tucked in and got back up to speed before Lawrence Perriman had a chance to run into the back of him. So he should be all right as he resets for his third. Well, this was on the third lap. I don't think he'll get another. Burgess a little bit wide now is going to hold him up, but it won't matter. I think it'll mainly just burn Perriman. Let's see if Aston Wyatt can stay on the top step right now. To the line here as we conclude qualifying. First across will be Bernardo Goubert. In 15th is the best he'll do. To the line for Francisco and Wynn Gottschalk. They'll push their way to first and second. Burgess to third. Wyatt to fourth. Perriman still with a good lap to go to fifth. Paxton Romero, Axel Garcia, Cameron Johnson, Simon Klein. What a lap there from Axel Garcia from the first group to still hold in seventh. Clayton Stiles still in 10th, up a couple of positions. We're waiting still, I don't know if Alex Chandler is going to get his third lap in. He did. 14th for the Iron Rock Motorsports Tony Kart driver. So Alex Chandler, P14. But for qualifying, coming to a close now, Jaden Francisco, top of the pylon over Wynn Gottschalk and Burgess by a full 10th with a big push coming to the line there at the end.
Really impressive what we just seen, I think, absolutely from the first group to be able to stay towards the top of the board in that session. And now it's going to be the main thing. Will we see a lot of these drivers from that first group be able to progress forward and make it a dogfight in the air group? 1 minute away from our next grouping of drivers to qualify.
Yeah, this will be the final two qualifying sessions on the morning. Chase Gassiet Lee getting ready to lead off this group, the first of the two for Kart CRG Pro X30. A showstopper main event yesterday. Every driver in this group is hoping that they're going to be a part of that spotlight today. There's a couple of names in this group that were able to qualify pretty well above the middle split, but nothing too crazy. No driver really, I believe, stuck out from this group yesterday that was going out last that had to end up in the happy hour following some post happy hour technical infraction. So I think the drivers to keep your eyes on here probably be the 13 of Chase Gassiet Lee, maybe the 30 of Nick Eggleston. He looked okay yesterday. Remo Ruscetti struggling a bit this weekend for the long-time Italkart driver and the co-owner for the Catalyst Driver Development Crew.
Going to be an interesting race and an interesting qualifying session, I think, for these drivers absolutely here. As they go on, Gassiet Lee was amongst the drivers that impressed in Charlotte, for example, a few weeks ago. And still with RK1 race gear on board. That National Motorsports machine making some adjustments right now, making sure things are just right to be able to truly build up some speed. He's one of the headliners in this first group, at least, here for this quality session.
He hovered to the top 10 through most of the practices on Friday, but the happy hour session was less than desirable. That's what's got him back here. We saw him have a decent charge in yesterday's main, but he didn't really make it on our cameras too much. There was so much action in the front of the field. That adjustment he made was just lowering the radiator flap just a little bit. There's a peak temperature these drivers know they want to hit. Their mechanic or engine builder, or if they're one and the same, are saying, hey, you want to look for this number on that Micron data gauge inside the steering wheel there. That's that onboard device he's got. He's able to see lap time. He's able to see predictive lap time with the GPS feature built in. And on top of that, he's got RPMs. He's got his water temperatures that he's looking for probably around 120 to 130 degrees Fahrenheit to keep at. Now, he had to make a pass on that lap, so he won't go to the top. Nick Eggleston, indeed, will be fastest on the outlap there at a 57.234 for Ruthless Karting on the Xpree. Henry Lepard, a struggle Saturday for the young man in the Rawlson Performance Group colors. The number 11 will be the first one to the timing loop here in this group. And the last two, they waited so long, I wasn't sure if they were still in the slow group for Sunday, but they are. Aiden Ingrata and Diego Ramos. And look at the delta they have to the rest of the field here. They are really trying to stick it on as high as maybe the front row with a lap like that to begin the session. 56.5 for each.
Ingrata in particular was one of the talking point drivers yesterday in terms of what they showcased in pace and being able to battle on the racetrack. Ramos, we know, wasn't that happy with this kart yesterday, based on what we heard from him and what we've seen in terms of the performance. But now Ramos today looking a lot more sportier here today in the Pro X30 package. We'll see if this kart stays up there with the second grouping of drivers already 55 sixes. That's going to be decently hard to beat for the drivers of the yard session.
Take a look down in the bottom right corner of your screen. Everyone in group number 2 for Pro X30 is still taking in the scenery, trying to look at the track conditions for any last bit of intel or points to make note of before they get out themselves, especially having the likes of Ingrata and Ramos out there. The eyes are on them, trying to see what they're doing, what the track looks like, and how they'll need to attack it. They're able to make last-second tire pressure adjustments on the grid. That's the only adjustments they're able to make. No tools are allowed of any kind. So at this point, the setup's locked, but the air pressure is oh so important in these short qualifying sessions right now. Ramos' second lap is still looking good, and Grata's a little less so. They are coming to the line at this moment, and Ramos is going to get a little help off the back of Ingrata. It will take him no better, really. A small improvement, a 55.46 for Diego Ingrata, a 55.803, 3.5 tenths off of Diego. Another 10th back with a good lap for Ingrata's Speed Concepts Racing teammate in Jose Shermer. He'll end up P3 in the group. Peyton Phillips, P4. Remy Andriatos, P5. Remo Ruschetti into 6th. Gassiet Lee sporting the onboard. He'll roll deep in the field there down in 7th. So that'll be something to keep our eyes on in the pre-final. We know how hairy it can get in the midfield. And we've got problems on the cooldown lap for the Arcane Tony Kart of Peyton Phillips, the 23 off to the infield.
Not good for them as they check on their kart as some of the fluid swooshes around inside the kart.
I should correct myself here. We're getting 4. It's a 5-minute timer, Justin. I apologize. 4 laps coming in. Remo Ruschetti just got a better one. Phillips is going to lose that last lap. There's still a shot for Ingrata to improve, a shot for Ramos to get closer. Let's see if they do. This first group, I think, they may be done. They're starting to slow down, but the back half of the field, did they get a 4th lap? I don't think they did. I think it was this first group here that got the 4th lap. So that lap paid off for Remo and Jose Shermer. He was able to get a little bit better in the number 78, but not by much. So he leapfrogs, well, he was already ahead of Phillips. It was no improvement for Shermer. It was an improvement for Remo. Remo Ruschetti, a 55.85, half a tenth off Ingrata, jump into P3. Nothing else too much to note. Henry Lepard able to improve and leapfrog Gassiet Lee and Andriatos and Eggleston. Then Ryan Raffa concludes the top 10 on the Mike Doty Racing LN kart for group number 1. 16 deep. And another 17 are ready to hit the racetrack, and they are all on the power, rolling off right now, all the way back to Finn Bailiff, who was the last one above the cut line in happy hour.
Bailiff looking to have a much cleaner race compared to yesterday, where it was off the track in the first lap for some of the action yesterday. And, of course, tempers popped up for yesterday also. We've seen with some of the battling later on in the running, but today we look to see where the power comes down for these drivers. Norberg was very quick, but in particular, Gus Lawrence. He said he knows he wants to win and feels he needs to win to be able to showcase he can perform here in the U.S. Was amongst the drivers that looked to be in prime position for that, but started making minor mistakes in the final, and they built up, and eventually he didn't even step foot on the podium. He fell off significantly to 4th position by the end of the race after being the dominant driver all throughout the other sessions. We'll see if Lawrence is able to bounce back here today to try and get himself a victory.
Yeah, Gus Lawrence still, though, rebounding in the best way possible. Fastest in the warm-up session by half a tenth over his teammate in Ryan Norberg. And in the pre-final, those two were head and shoulders on the field. They were exceptional. It was only, again, in that last bit, the last quarter of the main, where the kart didn't seem to be there. He didn't have quite what he needed to contend for a race win. But, again, it was so minor that it was the finite details that really made all the difference. And that's, again, par for the course, racing against the level that this class has evolved to. And the teams and drivers and engine builders and chassis mechanics and engineers and tuners, they've gotten this to an incredible point. that you have to be absolutely spot on. And that's why Gus, again, was really trying to study and go to work and learn what do they have, what have they figured out, what are they doing just a little bit differently. And that's a huge benefit to having someone like Ryan Norberg pitted right next to you. You get full access to the data. Norberg, again, access to Gus's as well. They're able to really tag team it, whereas Austin Garrison, he does have Speed Concepts Racing teammates in the class, and in Texas, Aiden Ingrata was very competitive. But right now, Ingrata coming out of the slow group, still being a bit off of Ramos' time. I don't know where he'll end up and how much Garrison will be able to lean on some of that help. Paulie Massimino as well, kind of the Lone Ranger for the BJR crew in Pro X30. Ruben Moya especially, he doesn't even have a chassis affiliate team. The Pontano chassis debut came on the SKUSA national scene at the Supernats with Ruben and a handful of others. And this year, a full Pro Tour campaign. He is their lead driver in both divisions this weekend, but he's leading the charge. The Spanish Salmon has been great on that go-kart across the pond in a number of European and international level events. But it's, as he mentioned in his interview, very different from what he's used to. And having to go up against someone like Ryan Norberg, like Austin Garrison, like Paulie Massimino, like all the other drivers who have been competing on the American scene for a while. They know this track. They know the style of racing. They know the tire down to a science.
That's coming straight from skill and as well from experience to be able to know that. Keep in mind, it's not just as simple as I've read the manual on the tires. You have to have the personal feel on these machines to be able to get yourself in tune with what you're going to feel in these tires and what you're going to have in terms of these runs here.
Watch this right here. The checkered flag flew right at 4 minutes in the last group. We're right around that moment. Does everybody get by? It just went, I think now. It may have been on the last kart. They might have let them through. So they're all going to get 4 laps. At the end of lap number 3 now, Gus Lawrence sits on top, 55.210. Ruben Moya, 19 thousandths back in second. Blake Nash low into the hairpin, defending from Alan Isambard. That will severely hurt them both. Isambard is down in 15th. Nash is up in 7th. So the driver who qualified on the pole yesterday, his 4th lap, he is mired in, he did get by him now, but he was mired in traffic. Moya, can he get the last 200ths to go to the top and put Pantano and Forward Direction Motorsports in only their 4th major here on the SKUSA national scene on pole? 3rd, my mistake there at the Spring Nats. It won't be enough. Massimino to 5 thousandths off Lawrence. And the final few to the line, Vasquez Jr. to 5th, Norberg 4th. It will not go. Gus Lawrence will sweep the pole awards from Cincinnati, but the field has gotten a good bit closer.
A lot more tighter in terms of the qualifying compared to yesterday. A lot of teams have found the pace. Norberg having to start only in 4th. Diego Ramos in particular, that time did stick to be in the top 6. And until that last lap looked to be maybe in the top 4. So Ramos in a great position here for the action. Garrison, McQueen, Isambard, and Fisher amongst the top 10. That on board from Ty Fisher. Going to be in prime position to be able to battle from the front of the field today. Much better qualifying performance.
Yeah, that's big for Ty Fisher on the TB kart. The number 37 top 10 run for him. We'll be hoping to ride shotgun with him in the pre-final and the main as well. Blake Nash bumps down to 11th on that last lap. Isambard even having to pass the 64 did improve, so that was big for him. Alan Isambard of the number 53 to 9th. So we'll get an inside lane starting spot, but by a mere 5 thousandths of a second. Gus Lawrence is on pole in Pro X30.
Don't touch it, don't touch it. Card number 6.
All right. Gus Lawrence. I got a chance to kind of watch most of that qualifying session with a couple of the X30 guys, and they seem to be confused in terms of just your ability to turn on the tires so quickly, and that seems to be your strength here in the States so far. What is it about maybe this tire, this circuit that allows you to just put down on such a lap, lap 2, lap 3?
Yeah. I think it's just technique, really, because back in England we race in cold weathers and we have 5-minute qualifying, so you have to get it going straight away. And I think it was actually my downfall yesterday because I was too good at the start of the final and not very good at the end, so I need to adjust that for today. But I was happy how qualifying played out, obviously with no draft, no slipstream. Yeah, can't go any better than that, so I'm happy.
Really quickly here before the KA Juniors go out for their first, their pre-final here, what do you think you can adjust from yesterday to today to kind of figure out how to have late race pace?
Maybe a little bit in my style, just relax more at the start, play the long game. It's a 20-lap race. We don't really do those back at home. Maybe 14, 15 laps is the longest we do. And then maybe adjust the chassis a little bit in terms of pressure to go for the longer duration. Yeah, I've been thinking hard last night about it because yesterday wasn't good enough. So hopefully we can have an impact today.
Thanks, Gus.
Thank you.
Well,